today's very short lecture, we are going to talk about Ethernet WAN. We will go over the introduction. You are going to learn an introduction of Ethernet WAN. We will talk about some of the physical topology, and then we will see a logical topology on which we will be doing some of the labs and stuff like that. So to start with the introduction, Ethernet was previously, as you have seen many of my previous lecture, Ethernet was used mainly for the LAN because of the distance that it could cover. It was majorly used for the LAN technologies. So the question always has been like, how do we provide the speed, not compromising the speed? How do we provide on the distance that can cover using the Ethernet technology? And the result of that is the standards like 100G base SR4, which is using the QSFP28, which what that means is there are technology available today for us to cover a distance of 100 kilometer and at the same time providing 100 Gbps of speed, which means the effort of providing the speed at the same time the coverage is being pretty much been addressed, and this actually provided an option to use Ethernet in the WAN side as well. So Ethernet switch, what it actually does is actually there will be, instead of in the previous lecture of lease line, you have seen some of the offices where they need some special of equipments. We call it a central office where the service provider will be having the equipment wherein the lease line will be kind of terminating, and the companies or the enterprises will lease those line from these providers. In this case, you don't need that because you have the technology which is being already used in their Ethernet LAN. So the same component and same technology will be able to work with the service providers as well. So what it does is, instead of having that customized or the special devices in the central office, now all you need is an Ethernet switch to connect the customer location. It could be switch, it could be router, but an Ethernet aware device is what you wanted to have in the customer location, which connects to the service provider. Now the benefit of that is, if you remember our previous lecture, the packet that originated from the PC, which reaches the customer's end device, it was Ethernet, and from the customer end to the customer site 1 to when it goes to the service provider network, it was encapsulated with HDLC. But since it is in this, and that was needed because of the HDLC, because we were actually using the lease line as a technology. But when you're using Ethernet, the benefit is from end to end, you are using the same Ethernet encapsulation, which actually minimizes the overhead of decapsulating and then re-encapsulating, which an HDLC, also having some of the HDLC aware devices. So it's end-to-end Ethernet with this technology. So this is how the physical topology look like. So the service provider, you can see the same type of devices, or even though the devices that is there in the internet service provider will be a high-end device, but it is actually using the same technology of Ethernet. So the routers on the customer premises, which are these routers, will be a low end or a low capacity, low power device, and the devices on the service provider will be a high capacity, high power devices, but it uses the same Ethernet technology. And what customer ends has to connect to is one of the locations which provided by the service provider, and then they have a peering between the customer end device and the service provider devices. And these particular points where you kind of go and connect to the service provider are called as point of presence, the point of presence for the service provider. And then internally, if you remember one of our earlier lecture, there are multiple tiers of service providers. Depending on where you want to route the packet, it will hand it over to multiple other tier ISPs, and then it forwards the packet. But for the enterprise to connect to the internet, all you need is to connect to one of these POP location, and this location could be geographically in multiple places. Wherever is the nearest location for you as a customer, you can actually peer with one of the POP location of the service provider. So even though the physical topology is like this, the logical topology will look something like this. You can see here that this is the customer environment, two sides of the customer, and then it will be peering with one of the routers here, and here between two routers, which is in the ISP site. They will be having a peering with the protocols which actually runs over the Ethernet. And then, as you can see, from end to end, from this PC, the packet originates with Ethernet, and it all the way goes from the customer site 1 to the ISPs to the customer site 2. All are using the Ethernet encapsulation. So we'll do more of labs and stuff like that, but to this particular point, for today's lecture, please understand the physical topology as well as logical topology. In the interview, if somebody asked what is POP, it is nothing. It's a location where your ISPs are provided to peer or to connect your your customer, for your customer to connect the internet. There is a location where every ISP is provided so that they can actually do a peering. That is what is called as a POP location. We'll dive deeper in upcoming lectures more, but for today, this is all it is. Thank you.